So I'm reading off of my Synchronicity journal document, the equivalent of a couple hundred pages, whatever. Okay, so in May of 2011, my partner Pookie gave me a Hamilton bookseller catalog with stuff circled that he wanted, and our routine at that time was to check out the Avapai Library Network, which was pretty good that we were using, to see what we could get to borrow from the library before we spent money on it. There was one book of strange phenomena that he wanted, and that particular title and author the library system didn't have. So I substituted one that was similar in the catalog called Unexplained by Judy Allen. It turned out to be a kind of coffee table gift book type things, but it was nicely illustrated. It had big illustrations on each page, and he really enjoyed it. We were able to go and pick it up right away. They had it in the library on the shelf. Okay, the next day, the weather report had predicted rain, which did come, and we wondered that the cows were mostly laying down, even though it was not excessively hot. We have cattle across from us. We haven't seen them in a couple of years. For a while, we were seeing entire families of these enormous white bulls, whatever they're called, Brahma bulls or whatever, I don't know, with enormous horns. And the females are not skittish when they're with the bulls. And the calves are with them, were with them for a couple of years, the last 2 years that we did see them annually. And it was really neat. The bulls would lick the faces of the cows, and pretty amazing the affection that these animals have for each other. This, next time you eat a steak, you might think about it, but we still eat meat. Anyway, we wondered that the cows were mostly laying down, even though it was not excessively hot. And that took place right before the rain started. They just lay down. In the middle of this prairie land that we have, grazing land that we have across the street, and we couldn't figure that out. Why were the cows laying down? So the next day, my partner Pookie showed me the large picture showing such a cow and the description. Let me show that to you. So the sequence of events was that we saw these cows just lying down for the first and last time we ever saw that. And it was right before the rain. And we both, remarked on it. Why would the cows lay down right before it started to rain? Okay. Okay, so here's what I was talking about. You see the front half of the cow contentedly lying on the grass there. And up here, there is a belief that if rain is on the way, cows lie down in order to keep some ground dry to stand on later. Okay, so that's exactly what happened. I mean, I guess that's cow logic or something. Hope it worked for them, but anyway. So that's what my partner saw the very next day after we saw this one-time occurrence. We had certainly never seen it before, and it was unusual enough for us to remark on. And as far as I can recall, I don't think we ever saw it again. So we're going into the rainy season, the monsoon season again. And this is where we first noticed those cows laying down in that field out there. We could see it from our TV room. And right before it rained, we just noticed that. We thought it was really strange. Why are those several cows, just laying down right? And then right after they did that, I don't recall whether they stayed for the rain or got up and left before. It was in 2011. We did notice the synchronicity right after when we found a description of just such a thing in that Judy Allen Unexplained book right afterwards. So that's where we saw him. So we thought it was unusual that the very next day in this book that we hadn't even intended to get originally, right after seeing this one-time deal, that we would find it in this randomly selected book that we had. So I did record it in this digital log that I have. And within a couple of hours of my recording that weird coincidence, synchronicity, my partner called me from the TV room, so agitated I thought there was something wrong. Reading off my log here, he was watching a British mystery show entitled Wire in the Blood. The episode was called The Darkness of Light. He had it paused on the scene in which the detective goes to an impressive-looking library and, in a book on witchcraft, opens to a close-up of a color painting which neither of us had ever seen before of the three witches in Shakespeare's Macbeth. And then, to explain why he was so excited about seeing this, Eric opened for me Judy Allen's Unexplained again, to the page containing that exact same color reproduction of the three witches. So one weird coincidence following right on the other. I will show you both that portion of the episode from Wire in the Blood. They have a kind of scaled down version of it on YouTube. I'll just show you the part where that image of the three witches appeared, and then I'll show it to you in the book. You'll see here how briefly the three witches showed up, but Eric, also known as Pookie, caught it and recognized the synchronicity with the image that he had just seen in the Judy Allen book that I'm going to show you. He recognized it immediately. There it is. And that's as briefly as it appeared, but he had just seen that moments before in the Judy Allen book. Okay, now I'll run it back so you can get a good look before I show you the exact same painting in Judy Allen's Unexplained. There they are. So here are those three ladies again in the book. I'm doing this in portrait rather than landscape mode just to try to keep everything consistent, but anyway, there they are. Okay, there are those three ladies, just like you saw in Wire in the Blood. And then a little blurb here, if I can read it right through here. The most famous superstition hovers like a dark cloud around William Shakespeare's tragedy Macbeth. There are numerous stories of accidents and disasters falling on those involved in productions of the play, especially if the title is spoken or lines are quoted off stage. But there have also been many occasions where nothing at all has gone wrong. So don't worry, right? Okay, and then it says, what does it say here? The three witches and the spell they chant are thought to be responsible for any curse on the play, Macbeth. It is said that the spell is real, capable of calling up dark forces. So my partner, Pookie, actually was looking at that page of those 3 witches right before, just moments before, he turned on, he played the DVD of Wire in the Blood. This, by the way, is an ex-library copy we bought on Abe Books. I just want to bring out that we had, as usual, checked out about 20 DVDs. This was before we started streaming at home, and a few books. So the odds against Eric, aka Pookie, watching Wire in the Blood right after seeing the 3 witches in Unexplained were even higher than if that had been the only DVD we'd brought home. Okay, this will be a perfect example of how when you start to pay attention to these synchronicities, they happen more often, which freaks a lot of people out, but it's just the way that it works. I had just downloaded the segments of this video into iMovie in order to edit them, and I set up a Netflix movie that neither of us had ever seen for my partner, Eric, aka Pookie, to watch. And it was an Eddie Murphy picture called 1,000 Words. Neither one of us had ever seen it. And so I was just watching the first part of it with him to make sure that he was going to like it. And this is what we saw.
Want or love are better words. Think about it. Don't we do everything out of love? How about this? Do you want, need, or love your job? Well, I love the idea that you need your job. Okay. 3 white witches watch 3 swipes watch.
3 white witches. Dig it. I had just downloaded the raw footage of the 3 white witches from Shakespeare's Macbeth. And we've never seen this movie before. I had no idea that that phrase was at the beginning of the movie. And here it appears. It's a perfect example of how synchronicities work. The more you pay attention to them, the more you give them credit, the more you talk about them, write about them, upload them to YouTube or whatever, the more they're going to happen or seem to happen. According to writers as diverse as Carlos Castaneda and William S. Burroughs, who were both into synchronicities, these things are happening all the time. We're just not paying attention. The more you pay attention to it, the more you get into the habit of noticing it. 3 white witches. And that's just what the synchronicity was on with, between the show Wire in the Blood and Judy Allen's book, Unexplained. And here it shows up in the Eddie Murphy comedy, 1,000 Words.